If you want to get better at using video for marketing or sales, this is the episode for you. You can probably hear me getting more and more animated as the conversation goes on when my guest, his name is Alex Guest, yes, that's his last name, he starts dropping knowledge, insights, facts, observations on how to capture attention with videos and how to use them in all variety of ways, but particularly in B2B sales and marketing. Alex is the founder of Referred.io, which is a customer video platform. And where we start off is the observation that the share of searches is migrating from text-based search, like on Google or Amazon, to video-based search. Super important for any company to take advantage of. And we also hit on trends in video consumption, video production, and much more. So thanks for listening. You're going to like this episode. Hi, Alex. How are you? Good to see you.
Doing great, John. Thanks for taking the time, having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, I was thinking about our conversation and reflecting on early in my career. Like 20 years ago, it felt like some companies just figured out search, Google search, I guess specifically, and its impact and importance on business. And the companies that did were at a real advantage and inflection point. I feel like the same thing is happening right now with video. And I know that your company is a lot about video, but maybe you can reflect on what you think video means to consumers right now and its importance to business.
Yeah. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Gartner put out a good report, I think actually over a year ago now, talking about how B2B buyers are using video across the entire customer journey now. It's not just a tool for marketing. There was even just an article last week talking about how the majority of Gen Z are actually using TikTok to discover new information as opposed to using Google search. So I think we're going through a huge revolution right now where people prefer to consume video content, and they're not just doing it for entertainment. It has kind of these material business or personal needs wrapped up in them. And for a younger generation, it's easier to search for that information in the social platform that they're used to, as opposed to kind of learning that syntax that maybe all of us old folks have learned when we're looking for the right thing on Google. I think it's totally changing. We're in the midst of that same revolution that you saw in Google search.
Yeah, and oh gosh, don't put us in the old category just yet. We got a ways to go. But for so many of us who have been focused on being on Google in order to get your company recognized or to monetize certain types of traffic or whatever, there's new place to compete. I mean, if 25% of the folks that are going to be spending the most money in our economy in 5, 10, 15 years are using something other than Google predominantly, that's a really big deal. And I know that your company, Referred, is building a business not around B2C, more around B2B and customer testimonials and customer videos. You know, in all seriousness, as a CMO and a B2B marketer, one of the most challenging and time-consuming deliverables in a marketing organization is getting like a real bona fide customer testimonial. It's really difficult, especially in B2B. What gave you the idea for Referred.io to build a business around this?
Yeah, I would love to say that it was some sort of moment of inspiration, but it was really that we needed something like it, and that every company that I've ever been at needed something like it. We needed a better way to scale customer references and testimonials, specifically from the people that loved what we did and how we did it. I mean, almost all of my friends, probably similar to you, are in tech companies. Like, they all struggled from the same thing. We're actually doing a case study right now with a product marketing manager that spent 6 months trying to chase down just a written testimonial that they were producing from one of their customers. It was a big request from the sales team. We need to be able to enumerate how this customer was using our service, and it's keeping us from closing deals. Because it took them 6 months and all of the red tape. By the time they got it out, sales didn't want it anymore. They didn't need it anymore. And there was a huge backlog of other requests. So we wanted a way to make it easier and faster, but it wasn't just the production end of things. We needed to kind of align to the new formats where people wanted to consume video, which added on another layer of complexity. And then you look at the market of video platforms out there, and we didn't want to just be an easier, faster, cheaper way to produce these videos because those exist. And then we learned how critical the data was behind it. Making sure that you're showing the right video to the right person at the right time is a huge piece to actually drive kind of material business impacts. So I was working at a startup with my co-founder Max, and we were kind of milling through these problems and trying to figure out how we could solve them. And then we got laid off because of the pandemic. And we figured, hey, instead of us going to find a new job, let's build that thing. Let's go and make these things easier and start to scale it and start to tie it to direct business impacts, because we also felt like that was a huge piece that was missing. So yeah, it came from a place of just putting up with it for years and years in our career and realizing there was a better way. So we made it work.
Yeah, seriously, like horror stories for me trying to get customer testimonials, everything from, you're at the finish line to getting legal to sign off, and just that, and what you're saying about the connection of sales and marketing and so on. Let me just make sure I'm understanding the use case. I'm thinking about a tool that I use, like an SEO tool, like Ahrefs or something like that, and I'm using the tool. And then there's an opportunity, maybe if Ahrefs is a client, to actually let Ahrefs know how much I like using it. Is that how I should think about referred?
Yeah. I mean, that's where we got started, right? It was that need for customers to kind of show the love that they have for the brands that they use, the vendors that help them get their job done. So we have simple tools to help those people self-record and say how much you love Ahrefs or any other SaaS tool. We focus on B2B, but then we even have some customers that are starting to do it for consumer products as well. If you want to add kind of an extra experience layer on top of that, we do kind of remote interviews with customers. We've even done some in-person interviews, either one-on-one or like at a user conference or a customer advisory board meeting. So you can get those people who truly love what you do talking about it on camera, and being able to leverage that across the customer journey. And as the platform's grown, we've actually learned that it's not just about the customers. Like, we think of it more about the people who love what you do. So that can be internal, that can be influencers, that can be experts, that can be your customers, certainly. But because it's so important to pair the person that's featured in the video with the audience, we've really expanded that. And it's not just kind of recording yourself like we are in this podcast. It's also the ability for somebody to record their screen and show others how they succeed with a solution, a tool, a product, and being able to narrate that experience. And where those capture tools are important, it's really kind of how we help embed that along the customer journey. The data behind it, making sure that you're putting the right video in front of the right person each time to drive results. So customers are absolutely a huge piece of that. Like, they carry a huge level of trust and authenticity and credibility and domain experience. But there's also this huge audience out there that everybody should be tapping into to represent their brand, their solutions.
And I feel like people, me, consumers, business colleagues, whatever, we're so much more willing to actually give a video now. I can't imagine before the pandemic, like, actually the process I would have to take to get on video. Now here I am talking to you. I haven't shaved today. like I'm all good. I'm just popping on the video and we're talking here. What have you learned about collecting video content? I imagine it's much easier now that we're all on Zoom, but do any obstacles remain? And talk about that.
I kind of wish I could give the pre-post, but because we built this because we were laid off after the pandemic. We never had a product going pre-pandemic times, but we certainly attribute a lot of our success in getting people to record through kind of the way that the pandemic has changed the world, right? Certainly we're seeing more people work remotely and everybody's more comfortable with Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever kind of video conferencing platform that you're using. There's also an element that you're kind of further away from the mothership. You are your own person. You have these tools that help you and support you, and you want to talk about them. You want to share them with the world. Like the things that you love, you want to be able to help them out. But it's not just the pandemic, right? I mentioned TikTok earlier. It's Instagram Reels. It's YouTube Short. People are more and more comfortable being kind of featured in front of the camera. Then there's this huge consumer trust element of it too. Like we used to gravitate towards celebrity endorsements, right? Then it moved into this influencer sphere where, hey, that person's like me. And now it's moving into this world where I trust people that are like me and people that aren't doing this professionally or aren't monetizing it in some way because it's more honest, it's more truthful or authentic that way. I can trust those people more. So people want to be that person for others. They want to help out those like them, which is great because people want to learn from their peers or people that they aspire to be. We've certainly benefited from it, which is kind of unfortunate to say out loud. But I think we're seeing this huge shift in certainly US business culture, and how comfortable we are in front of camera. And we're seeing kind of that on both ends. It's both the professional world that's driving it and the personal world.
Yeah, I like your point about an organic testimonial or showing your love organically versus influencer culture, which can sometimes feel like you've just seen a transaction take place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to get into the sales and marketing funnel, but before I do, you mentioned all of these platforms that I typically see as consumer platforms like TikTok. Are you seeing any of your B2B customers going into that space and using TikTok as a way of drawing in a business customer?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, a couple of things, right? So there's around 1 billion active users on TikTok, where it used to skew in younger generations, and more consumer focused. You're starting to see people later career get into those platforms. It's used for entertainment. Certainly there is a burgeoning, I don't know how to phrase it. Like you're starting to see more and more business related content in there, and it goes beyond just kind of that brand awareness phase. Like you have people like Duolingo who use their mascot to get in on kind of viral TikTok trends, or Ryanair and kind of their snarkiness. And that's great for big brands that need that awareness. So the next time you're flying to Europe, oh yeah, that Ryanair airline, or oh, I need to learn Italian because I'm heading out that way. I remember the bird doing the fun dance, right? Like that's great for large brands, but for smaller tech companies, like that's not really the game. You need to be more based in revenue marketing. But that's becoming more and more effective on TikTok. I think you need to participate with the virality. I think that still helps with awareness, but educational content is really helpful. Testimonials are certainly helpful. Short form video is, I think this is going to be a very self-servicing statement, but like it's the future of consuming information, and it demands your attention, right? Like you can have a couple browser tabs open, be reading articles, listening to music, multitasking, but when you're watching a video, you have to be completely locked in. It is a visual and audio experience. So I think everybody should be leveraging platforms like that kind of quick tip on TikTok, it's really about consistency and volume. Like if you're going to be posting on TikTok, you're probably going to want to be making like 12 to 14 posts a month. We do that by kind of distributing work across our team. But large organizations, I think we're going to start to see them kind of dedicating individuals to these types of platforms, and certainly to video production as a whole.
So why is that the 12 to 14? Is it because like that gets the TikTok algo going, or is it someone needs to see a video from a company 5 or 6 times? Do you have any insight into that?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? I would love to be able to look inside the TikTok black box and tell you exactly how it works and how things hit a point of virality. It certainly seems to be increasing your odds by having a higher volume of content. It's going to be picked up by somebody and shared, and then it'll get kind of syndicated, maybe is a good term, within somebody's feed. So it's more likely for like users to see it. I think there's also that kind of that resistance piece from consumers and from users, that I think there's all those statistics out there that you need to reach out to somebody from a cold outbound capacity like 78 times before they even start paying attention to who you are and your messaging. I think that's pretty similar, but it could also be there could be also be another layer of difficulty put on that, because most people are still very much using TikTok in a personal entertaining capacity. Like you're starting to see kind of information gathering with some of those searches, and I think we're still on the cusp of seeing true kind of business application in it. So when you're in your consumer and your entertainment persona, it's going to take a lot more to kind of break down that barrier and say, oh yeah, I am a marketing manager in my day-to-day. This service, this solution looks interesting. I should take a look at it tomorrow when I get back to the office, or the next time I jump into my email. So I think the volume helps out in those ways. I think there's also an authenticity piece that comes along with it, of you're showing that you're here. You're showing that you're a participant in the community, and you're not just there to try to monetize it. I think consumers have gotten really good and really savvy at determining when they or the tools or the platforms, the communities that they love are being used. So it's important to have that authenticity piece as well.
It also means, when you're not doing a video from a customer, that your content should be more educational in nature. I guess that's what I'm hearing too.
Yeah. So this is actually something that we've struggled with a lot with the data that we have, right? When we first started, we thought it was customers or bust, like customer videos or bust. And then we had customers that were like, well, what if we record our customer success managers? What if we record our CEO? What if we record a salesperson? And so we started collecting the data around that. And what we've learned is that it's really important that that person have domain expertise in whatever they're talking about. So customers are not always the right answer. Prospective customers, other customers want to hear from customers when they're giving recommendations, when there's a high degree of alignment and they're giving advice. This is how we use it. This is how we use this feature to do XYZ to increase ABCD. But as soon as you shift over into, say, like a product demo, where it's more about education in how to use it, not why to use it, it's important to have an expert. And where your audience sees experts are in customer success managers and sales engineers and the people who built it, the people that maintain it, and the people that understand how to use it. The same goes for things on TikTok, right? Like, have your customers talk about you in short form videos, use them on those platforms. And I would also wrap in like Instagram and YouTube into that when it is more kind of the why. But then look at kind of your team to talk about the how. And one other point of advice that I would give there is when you're talking about educational content on TikTok, because that business piece is not quite there yet, I wouldn't do like a how-to or best practices for your solution or platform. The educational content should be more kind of around like theories and philosophies and like best practices to convey value. So like some of the ones that I do are based off of like revenue strategies because that's where my background is, and I find it fascinating and interesting. But I'm not directly tying that back to our brand in all cases, right? Like going back to the consumers are really good about teasing through kind of content that's meant to monetize them versus kind of authentic content that gives first. You want to be careful with that.
I like that idea of using TikTok and platforms like that for strategy or your bets on going viral and things like that. So you're giving value to the audience, not trying to extract value right away. But once someone has indicated interest, now they're on your site or they're going through a lead form or something like that. They've made some indication to purchase. What are the opportunities to use videos in the sales and marketing funnels?
So this is really cool, and it will probably resonate with you with your background in SEO and SEM and everything, right? Because what's most important to drive results on a particular page is the intent of that page. We talk about this in some of our kind of like best practice videos when in our platform when people are getting started. But the first thing that we recommend people take a look at is the page itself, right? Like your homepage is going to draw your most diverse audience. In our case, it's marketing, sales, and customer success leaders primarily. So we need to have videos that represent those groups because they want to hear from their peers. Like, if you sell to an engineering leader, the last thing you want to do is put a sales leader in front of them talking about how great that solution is. They're not going to listen to them. It's a different function. If you have a seniority disparity, that does damage. If the company sizes are drastically different or in their different industries, people basically just tune it out. That person's not like me. They don't do the things that I do. They don't know the things that I know. They're in a completely different market segment. So you really want to take into account kind of that audience piece. The next thing is like, what is the intent of that page? Is the page around education? Is the page trying to get them to convert through a lead gate, through like a newsletter sign up? Is it getting them to dig into the next page, right? Like you go to a solutions page, this area is for me. You go into more and more specificity and specific kind of conversion points or calls to action. So it's most important for the videos to align to that. And how it ties back into SEO and SEM is we're taking a look at the page. When we are choosing what video goes on what page, we're scraping it somewhat similar to Google, right? We're saying, okay, it looks like the page is for these types of people based off of the language. It looks like they're looking to convey these value propositions, these use cases, these improvements to metrics and statistics. And then based off of having videos tagged to the same things, we can say, hey, like show this video on this page to these people in order to drive the highest degree of results. So as you're talking about like Ahrefs or any of those SEO platforms where it's taking a look at the page and it's saying like this is how it ranks, we're almost using that same data in a different way to drive results out of it. That's kind of what's most key to marketing and sales pages. It's that association between the audience, the intent, and the content that they're going to be watching.
Well, if any of the audience is like me, then our heads are churning here, and we're thinking about how we actually take action on some of this stuff to create videos. And so I was hoping to pick your brain live on like best practices for marketers. Things like what production value is a minimum bar, or how should I think about the length of a video, or how much content it should include, or how much should I think about making the video fancy with graphics and lower thirds and things like that. If I want to get started, what should be my minimum bar?
I would love if this was a soundbite. It would make our jobs a lot easier when we're talking about kind of value for our prospects and our customers. But the nice thing is our product takes care of a lot of this for everybody, so you don't have to worry about it. The short answer is it varies wildly. Like how you're going to use the video really impacts all of those different production elements. talking about one of the first things that you mentioned, quality, right? When we first got started, we would go to who we thought were our prospective customers. We'd go to their website and we'd see these amazing videos that they had an agency produce, and they had paid 10, 20, 60, even $80,000 for these videos. And we're like, we don't produce things like that. They could put it in our platform, but like, are we already dead in the water from kind of day one? And we did a survey, and what we learned was those videos have a time and place, right? They're good for awareness. They're good for ads. They're good for building kind of executive trust and things like that. But when you start taking a look at videos for references, for testimonials, people didn't trust those types of videos because they felt like they were overly produced. They knew that there was some sort of camera crew. They figured that person was scripted because those videos can come off a little dry and cold. And in some of the responses, people were like, I don't believe that that person's actually a customer. Like they're in makeup. They have kind of that like standard background behind them, like the empty conference room. They're looking just off left center from camera. And because it's so well edited, they didn't even believe that that person was a real person, that could actually be a customer. So then we started to see this kind of whole spectrum, right? Like there's the hyper authentic, I recorded this from my phone, on the go, walking between meetings, at a conference, all the way up to those kind of very well produced video case studies and testimonials. And people want a different version of that along for different uses, right? Like they want something that can be trusted when it's a testimonial, and that's great to have somebody at their desk talking into the camera that they use every day for Zoom about how much they love your solution, what it's done for them. Then you start taking a look at things like length. Like people have short attention spans. If you're going to post something on LinkedIn or another short form video platform, like 20 to 25 seconds seems to be the best engagement based off our data. You can go up to 45. Once you go over a minute, you're going to lose a ton of your audience. Then you start talking about some of the accessibility things, like lower thirds and closed captioning. Closed captioning tends to just be something we recommend for all of our videos. The reason there is not only an attention piece, because what I was mentioning earlier, video demands kind of all of your senses. You're watching it, you're listening to it. If they're reading on screen, they're entirely locked in to what that person's saying, and it eliminates any confusion. What did they just say about that? It's on the screen. The other big thing around it, though, is that most people don't play videos with audio on them. They hate autoplay videos. Never do that to anybody. None of our solutions do that because people absolutely despise it. But maybe they're listening to music. Maybe like they don't want to connect their headphones, or they're afraid to go to a page that has some sort of autoplay audio component, so they're muted to begin with. And you actually see better views when you add captions. So we often hear from our new customers, like one of the biggest hurdles that they felt they needed to get over was, how do I get videos? What kind of videos do I get? Who do I get them from? We help out with a lot of that. Like we have pre-built questions. We make recommendations on who you should ask for. We even will do the recording for you and invite people. But the best way to get started is to just start recording the people that already love you. And you can short your time to value with us, or really any video platform, by just recording your own team. And start with those that have the highest level of credibility and authority and trust. So customer success managers, leaders, sales engineers, executives, specifically non-sales related executives, and I'm going to say the CEOs or sales related executives, go to your product people, go to your engineering leaders, have them talk about the value, and then that gives you content that you can use before you ever get your first customer video in the platform. And then anything you've got, you just upload it. We can auto tag all of it and get it out in front of the right audience. So yeah, and I suppose if anybody has questions, they can always ask. Always happy to help out.
And of course, in the show notes, we'll have links to your site and ways to reach out. So many awesome best practices in that, Alex. You and I were talking offline last week, actually, and I don't think either of us have a really clear answer to that. But as marketing departments are organized today, where do you feel like either the video function or video accountability or video budget ideally fit into a marketing or sales organization?
So when we talked about this last week, I had an opinion. I think it's changed. Um, I think what we're gonna see happen with video is somewhat similar to what we saw happen with revenue operations teams. I mean, I started in B2B SaaS tech companies a decade ago. Um, I think the first company I worked for had a sales operations person. They sat on the ops team. They helped us. The next couple, that sales ops person actually sat on the sales team and helped us. And then that's when we started to see marketing operations people. And then within recent years, we've seen success operations people. And I think there are kind of two camps there. I think some of them sit with the team. I think others are more centralized, depending on kind of how large your organization is. And I think I see video teams going that direction. Like certainly up until now, it has made a ton of sense to have that video ops person sit under the marketing organization. They own the content, they've owned the tech, if not the capture, certainly the deployment of it. But because we're seeing all of these teams have this not even appetite, this demand for video from prospects and customers alike, I think we're going to start to see video people sit on the success side of the house because they can produce great videos around best practices, FAQs, onboarding videos to help shorten time to value, and they can partner with marketing teams to help drive product-led growth. I think we're going to see some version of that with sales teams too. Like video prospecting is highly effective. There's that kind of original use case that we started with on scaling customer references through videos. And then there's other parts of the organization that can use videos. We have customers that use it in HR and recruiting to help attract the right talent and help scale interviews because those don't scale very well either. I see video production teams becoming either kind of a subgroup that sits under operations or just a wholly independent group, kind of similar to operations. And whether that's kind of distributed across the organization or it stands alone, I think is probably going to be based off of the organization itself. But video is becoming so important to us as consumers in both B2C and B2B capacities that it's gonna require that level of specialization.
You know, it's interesting that you used the term operations to describe that function. That's not where I think I would have gone if you had asked me that question. But I'm more aligned now as to your way of thinking because there are other inputs to video like what's the taste, what's the branding guidelines, all of that stuff. But marketing can provide that to operations, and there's certainly a testing component to this too. I mean, it sounds like your platform will help make a decision about what video goes where, but there's also probably some testing, some data analysis that's associated with that too, that's more suited for someone with an operational background. That's really interesting. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out, particularly because some of the skills you've needed for video now are built into your computer or are solved just because of what we said. You don't need A+ TV quality production for everything that you do. Let me ask before we close out, are there any use cases for videos that we haven't talked about yet that maybe marketers should consider?
I think actually I touched on a couple in my last tirade. But the first is product-led growth. Like that is our number one use case right now. It's what the majority of marketers are talking about, and it's where a lot of success teams kind of get started with us, or at least it's adjacent, right? Like success teams usually come to us to help with onboarding, whether it's personalized or kind of broad spectrum. It helps kind of scale that, shortens time to value. It helps drive utilization and then the realization of said value, which drives retention and everything. But then as soon as it shifts over into an expansion component, we're seeing a lot of success teams and marketing teams partner up and drop our kind of programmatic videos into their product to help somebody either adopt a feature that they already have or test out a feature that is maybe in a premium version of their product. So you get that product-led growth, you get that scalability out of it. That one's huge right now. The other one is the HR piece. Like on our About Us page, we have our magic quotes, as we call them, inspired by Harry Potter for fans out there, kind of moving pictures to drive more engagement. That helps people understand like who's there and who's at the company and who they'd be working with, and like get a more honest opinion of like what they feel about the company. Like our questions are like, what's your favorite core value? And what's the other one? It's like, what do you love about working with your team? Like, it's not this big, like, tell us why you love your company to death. We try to come from a more kind of authentic, trustworthy perspective. And it helps quite a bit. It helps us and helps some of our other HR customers that are trying that out to see, okay, how does video loop itself in to get and retain the best talent? It even helps scale interviews in some ways, because you can have team members that otherwise wouldn't be part of the interview committee kind of answer questions coming from the candidate, and even following up with that person once they watch the videos. We have a way for them to message. So that's becoming a more popular use case. I would say one of the biggest things is like leveraging your customers in higher up in the funnel, right? One of our most popular videos, one of our most successful videos, is getting your champions to tell people why they should schedule a call with a salesperson, why they should try a free trial. Once they are in there, have those same people saying, hey, this is who I am, and this is the type of business that I run, and this is the person I am there, and these are my goals. This is how I use this platform to drive my goals. So it's almost a combination of like business development and product demo coming from an external party, a third party. It's a really interesting use case, and being able to pair that up with just the right person and just the right time has been huge. But I mean, I could go on and on and on about all the ways that you should be using video and getting ROI out of it. But that in itself is another cool thing. It's like you get a video once, you can reuse it 5, 6, 7 times. Like the ROI is just so much higher, not only in the video itself, but then you can transcribe it and get a blog post, get case studies, and video is going to take over the world.
I totally agree with that. Alex, thanks so much for being on the pod today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the time. Great conversation. Looking forward to coming back.